Hey, everybody, this is Jeff Allen, and we are at the Who Gave Jeff Allen a podcast with my co-host and good friend, Carollynn Xavier, and she is going to share with you the guests. We have a couple of special people in here today.
All right, you guys, we have such a treat for you today. You're going to want to buckle up. We have Rebecca St. James and her husband, Cubbie Fink. If you've been in the Christian space for a long time, you totally know who Rebecca St. James is. If you're a millennial or have turned on a radio in the last 20 years, you've definitely heard Foster the People, which is Cubbie Fink. He directed the movie about her life. They have a brilliant, beautiful story and a new book out called Lasting Ever. And this podcast was such a fun interview. So buckle up, guys.
And hit the subscribe button, and please share this and comment.
Yeah, you got to comment, because if you comment, even if you hate us, it drives up the algorithm, and we want the algorithm to drive up. So you know what? Even if you have a problem with your husband today, I'm just saying, get in those comments and let us know why Bill pissed you off, Barbara. We want to know what happened, what went wrong. All right, love you guys. God bless. Stay tuned. Speaking of super cool books, I just read your guys's.
Aww.
And I love it so much. Okay, so I didn't grow up in contemporary.
Well, are we rolling?
We're going. Yeah.
Oh, we're going. I thought we got to do an intro. Are we doing that
We're
after?
doing it at the end.
At the end. Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. We changed things.
We changed it up. Because otherwise it was like, and we can leave all this in because who cares? People should know. But when we started the intro and it was just like we do the intro, it was like, now we're on radio. Like, I felt like that.
Yeah.
Did you feel like that?
No. I don't
No?
have any feelings. I am numb to life.
So I didn't grow up in contemporary Christian culture or even Southern Christian culture. I grew up in like super secular California. Okay. So my husband grew up like Southern Baptist and went to like Liberty University.
We've met him.
Yeah.
We know your husband. Yeah.
And so he was like, dude, Jeff knows Rebecca St. James. And I was like, forgive me, but I've never been in the Christian world. Like, I don't know what that means. He was
That's
like,
okay.
you never listened to WOW? And I was like, what?
Wow 96.
Yeah.
And Wow 2000.
And he was like, it's the now for the Christian.
There you go.
And I had no idea. And then in researching you guys, I found out you're the basis for Foster the People, which then I started to
cool
fangirl.
points. Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, we know that guy? That was like, and so I just totally like nerded out. So I'm going to try to keep it cool, guys.
Okay.
But I'm nerding out for my husband, for Christian Powerhouse.
Nice.
And for, I guess, would you guys consider yourself secular music?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You can call it that.
Yeah. I feel like there's so many people that are like,
Well, can I intercept here?
I got nervous.
No, not at all. But I the whole secular Christian thing, especially when it comes to music, is because the notes are not secular or Christian. The music itself isn't. My first event, and you probably, did you do Estes Park?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that was my first event as a believer. Big one.
Yeah.
And
what's
very
Estes?
funny. They were playing the leprosy video, right? Not a dry eye in the house.
Compassion,
right?
World Vision, something.
So Cam leans over and goes, "You need to go up." I go, "What? We need to lighten this up." So I walk on. This is Colorado.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, I had one of those lines in my head. I said, "This is going to be either one line show or we'll get past it." And I walked out and said, "Watching that video, my chapped lips don't feel so bad anymore." And it was one of those, it brought them down. I said, that's great, because it was one of those where they could go, ooh, and then you're done because it's inappropriate, or they just go, we're ready for the tension to be broken.
Yeah.
But there was a discussion, and this is what I wanted to ask you. You're a songwriter.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So there was a discussion, and again, I'm new to this. I'm completely ignorant of everything, and about and this was the 90s.
Yeah.
So the rock band, from
Petra.
Australia.
Striper.
No. Anyway, they were Newsboys. Newsboys.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
they weren't saying Jesus enough.
Okay.
There had to be a number of mentions of Jesus in so many paragraphs or stanzas or whatever. And I'm sitting there listening to this as an outsider going, why?
Yeah.
I mean, when I listen to Daughtry, I hear gospel. Now, my wife, other people may hear a love song to a woman, but I heard a love song to a Savior. And to me, that's good music because it feeds some part of your soul.
Yeah.
So when you write a song, are you conscious of how many times you mention Jesus' name, or are you just trying to write a...
No, I mean, I started writing at 12 or 13, so pretty young. And it was just what was feeding my soul at that point. So it could have been, Psalm 139, which I have a song called that, and it's mostly just the scripture. And then the chorus is, even though you know you will always love me, so it's... But it's my experience generally with God in a song. And then I have other songs that I've written, I would say more recently too, where it's like, it's a relational song and it's maybe about unconditional love, but it's not got Jesus in it, but there's something that connects with the heart.
Well, that is Jesus, though. That's unconditional.
Yes, it's him breathing his life through it. Yeah.
When I was in therapy years ago, group, it was interesting. We had a discussion about unconditional love.
Yeah.
Does it exist? Is it possible within a human relationship?
Wow.
And everybody, it was so funny because we loved our therapist, Joanne. So they go, Joanne loves this son. And then the cynic in the group goes, stop paying her. And I go, hey. And she even went, you're right, I got to eat. Yeah. But it is an interesting fodder for conversation.
100%.
Because if there's close as you can get, and as a father, those daughters,
love for your child.
I can't imagine what conditions you would put on the love you have for them.
Right.
But then we go in with the earthly heart, that nature of ours, and whatever baggage we were given as children, and you find I did anyway, as a father, behaving in ways that I would go in a room and just think, why would I do that? And then you walk out. I apologized so many times to my children that I, at one point, walked into my son's room and he goes, I know you're sorry.
Wow.
That's all I got.
It's a good thing, though, to say sorry. I think we're getting better at that, in this day and age of, like, owning our stuff to our kids. I think there was a generation, and good job on you for doing that, because I think there was a generation that still doesn't apologize to their children. It's just, it was kind of a stoic, like, I've got it right and don't question me, a respect thing. And I think we're getting better, and you're obviously leading the way, Jeff, at owning to our mistakes. And I think there's a beauty in that humility. I think it's very Christ-like. Like, he was the Son of God, but the most humble human ever.
Yeah.
So you've talked about that, though, like about us having kids, and maybe even in the book, but seeing the unconditional love of God through this tiny baby that's not giving us anything, but we adore that child, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's sort of a revelation that I had in the process of getting married, then having children, in the sense that I think that one of the most beautiful glimpses of the essence of God happens first in marriage and then in parenthood. And just in the way that God designed marriage and the way that he speaks to the church and Christ, the bridegroom and the bride.
Right.
There's something so beautiful in the union of marriage that I think we experience some of the essence of God in that, and then being able to father and mother our own children and have that unconditional love. I mean, there's that can't be mustered up. It's not like you can muster up the strength to be willing to die for something. It's just an innate desire. Like, I will absolutely lay my life down for this child for no other reason than love. And it's that unconditional love that you can't just make it up. I think it's ingrained in who we are, and I think that is also a beautiful glimpse of the way the Father views us. I mean, it's just in his innate nature to love us unconditionally.
Yeah, I just had a thought that maybe that's why the most damage done to children is when you put conditions on that love.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When it's about performance.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. All of a sudden, because you think of, I was 33 years old, I think, when my father said, "You're a funny comic." I was 10 years in the business, and I remember going into. By then, I had done a lot of work, and I went in and told my wife, "Well, I got it." She said, "What? The approval from the old man?" And she said, "Are you whole now?" I go, "Nah, it's about 33 years too late." But it was interesting. He once told me something I thought was very funny. He said, "I was really proud of your athletic ability." And I said, "You were?" He goes, "Yeah, I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. I didn't want you to get a big head." I go, "Well, it worked." You know, but isn't that funny? It was
It
a
is.
conscious decision not to praise
Yeah.
the son because
Yeah.
in his mind, it would do
hurt-
damage to
hurt
me.
you. Right.
It would do damage. And then I think there is this thing culturally where it's just too much praise.
Right.
100%. We can
You know.
swing either way.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
I
a
think-
balance somewhere in there.
I think the hard thing for children too. I mean, I think humans as a whole is we hang on to the criticism more than we hang on to the praise.
100%.
We were talking
even-
about this.
We were just talking about it this morning.
What it takes to
in those,
undo.
yeah, even in
Yeah.
those little
Yeah.
things with children, it's you're trying not to place conditions on them, but you're also wanting to stand up and be the people
Right.
that they can be. And especially with our eldest, I think we've struggled in trying to not place conditions on her, but cause her to
Call
stand
her
up,
higher.
call
Right.
her
Well,
higher, be the
again,
leader in the.
you're a singer.
Yeah.
So American Idol, when in the early days when they'd play the bad singers, and they'd be, their parents would be out there. Oh, she's got a beautiful, it's like,
Oh, I know.
my Lord,
Why are you lying to your
Right,
kids?
exactly. That's
I can't
gonna-
watch that show. I feel like it's traumatic just to watch it because I'm
Yeah.
like empathizing for these people.
Okay,
It's
to
like-
be fair, maybe their parents are just tone deaf too.
True.
You know,
That's
that
a
could
good
be.
point.
They're like, this hits.
It's a good take.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Mr. Bodine told me I can't sing. And he didn't say you got you can't sing, so don't ever sing again. So anyway.
But like so many things in Hollywood, when I was a kid, my dad worked for 20th Century Fox, and he
Okay.
was like, yeah, they wouldn't put anyone through that couldn't sing decently. Even amazing singers, they were like, no, and they were like, the worst of the worst. That'll make good television.
Oh yeah.
Get it
100%.
right.
100%.
Yeah, it's so sick, this
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of this business, Unsung Hero. Okay, so I hadn't watched it, and my husband and I watched it as a date night because we knew you guys were coming in. And I
Well,
was like,
Unsung Hero, we should explain, is
yeah.
and it's so funny because I don't want to give away anything, but when your mother got sick and after delivering the last child, I sat there sobbing because I thought she died, and
Tammy's like, she's
Tammy
not
goes,
dead yet.
"The movie's about her." No, we know she lives. We do? I paused it. I go, "We do?" She goes, "Yeah. The movie's about her." And then I even got more emotional because, gosh, who would not write a movie about their mother? My God,
Right.
I'd write a movie about my mother. She was a saint.
well, what happened to me was I had already started your book, and
Okay.
so Brent was like, I'm gonna kill her mom. And like, he was so upset because I'd read the book. I knew she made it through to
Yeah.
the end.
Oh, my
So
gosh.
I just had to let him suffer.
Good job, though. It
hilarious.
really, you really pulled on the
worked.
strings
It was
there.
Just a few more seconds, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and then you
my
realize she
We all
lives.
wept over here.
And the funniest thing is, Tammy said when she went into labor, this was her 7th child.
Yeah, right.
7th. She goes, she had to spit that out in about 10 minutes. I said, I don't know if that's the word I would use, spit it out.
Oh, he takes a bit more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, still.
So anyway,
Okay.
that's it. It's a movie. You have to see it. It's very good, but it's based on your trek from Australia to the United States in Nashville, where you still currently reside.
When
So,
it was still affordable.
yeah.
Yeah.
Before the big change.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is crazy.
So you had 6 kids when you traveled over? Or 6?
Yeah, and mom was 5-6 months pregnant.
Right, and as you made over. And then your father was a concert promoter
right.
in Australia.
Yeah.
And took a hit with Amy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I said, that's so funny because we know Amy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Lovely, lovely lady.
yes, yeah, very,
She
very.
sank our whole family, but she was a brilliant, beautiful woman.
But it's funny because one of the calls came in to your dad. I wondered if it was Chaz
Yeah. I mean,
or
yeah,
Blanton,
there was,
Harold, one of them.
But Dad looks back at all of that, and there were a lot of components. There was, multiple. When I watch the movie, I go, "Wow! Like, how low does it get? Like, where does this bottom out?" And I lived it. Like, I was in it, around it. Watched it firsthand. But like, there's a lot of lows, and so it's not just
good job.
one. There's not just one
Yeah.
situation.
And there
that
were lows that we had to pull out because it was too much.
low?
And there was even some of the miracles and some of the highs that we had to pull out too because it just became unbelievable.
Cubbie helped direct it, and helped in the writing
So
process.
kind of had to
every
find
part
that
of it.
middle ground of let's
Yes, some of the
condense a
stuff
story
that God
makes sense.
does.
Yeah.
It's almost like you don't want to tell it because it sounds
People wouldn't believe it.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a couple of them where the day after I gave my life to Christ, I sat on the end of the bed and I wondered what was. I haven't never woken up like this. I couldn't figure out why. And you've heard the term lightness of being or something. It was like this weight. And then I remembered, oh yeah, last night I gave my life to Jesus. Wow. Is this what this is? And then I had this vision of a valley as I'm sitting on the bed. I had this as clear as a bell, and all these moments in my life where Jesus is telling me I was here, I was here, I was here, I was here, I was here. And a number of them were places I could have lost my life without some just person showing up, cops showing up. And to tell those stories, it sounds made up, but it's so not. Personal. I don't need you to believe me to make it real, because it's as real as it can be.
Yeah.
And with your story, I lost it when I saw your dad cleaning the toilet. Hey everybody, this is Jeff Allen. I'm calling all golfers. We don't care if you can play or not, man. If you can dust off some old clubs and come on out. June 30th, West Haven Golf Club. We are doing a scramble, raising money for the anti-predator-project.com and the Williamson County Sheriff's Department Trafficking Division. If trafficking is an issue you care about, this is the chance to raise some money and do some good and get a good round of golf in with your buds, man. Anti-predator-project.com, West Haven Golf Club, June 30th. Come on. You know you want to come.
That was a little bit of fiction, honestly. Oh. Me and my mom, and my brother cleaned houses. Dad, most of the whole entire movie. So this is a little thing that probably hasn't been talked about actually publicly. Yeah. You're getting a little bit of a first right here. But no, he didn't go quite that low. Oh. That was one of the things that was like slightly fictionalized. So he did mow the yards. He was, raking lawns, kind of doing all of that. And at Eddie's house. That is all true, but he didn't clean Eddie's toilet. Well, so that was slightly exaggerated.
Tammy cleaned houses when we were broke. Yeah, and it was, to me, it reflected on me. Again, that's why I related with your dad, that she cleaned friends' houses.
Okay.
So, and I went over a couple times and helped out, wiping down the sinks in the bathroom and stuff. And not being able to see a way out. It's a draining time. It really is. Yeah. When I saw your dad, so I'm sorry, it's sad that it was not, because that hit me. I thought of her, and that was what she was doing to help me out. Yeah. Because I couldn't fund our lifestyle. Yeah. But
and I mean, who knows which is the more humbling, like the mowing someone's yard or raking their leaves, and putting them on a tarp to get them, to a different area in the property, or cleaning a toilet. I mean, it was extremely humbling. And I mean, he talks about that time that he was just shaking in his boots. Like he just, just like every day was just traumatic, really, of like going, how are we going to do this? And I've got all these kids and
I love the prayer wall. I love the thing. When I got saved by a guy, and I was at his house, he had a jar of jelly beans. I went to grab it. He goes, "No, those are answers to prayers." We prayed. They had a list of 10 people they prayed for every night.
They all had diabetes.
And they yes, and they were all on the spectrum and whatever. But anyway, I thought, how cool is that? And then when I saw your wall, you moved them over. Now, that wasn't fictionalized. Is there anything in this movie?
They actually moved from New Zealand.
So they're sitting on the floor and praying about the things. Wall? I don't know that there was. I don't remember that. Is Mom right about that in the book? I don't remember that.
That came. I mean, I'm pretty sure that was pulled from
I don't remember exactly that. What we did do is we sat on the floor in a furnitureless house and prayed specifically for a car and food and money and saw it happen. And groceries on the doorstep and Yeah.
I thought there was a bulletin board where you
I'll
put
have to ask Mom.
I'm pretty sure there
I'll
was.
have to ask Mom.
I don't think we made
mean,
that up.
All right. Yeah, he was in the weeds. I actually didn't really get involved in the script quite as much, but well, I'll have to ask Mom. I'll text her
Fact
today.
check it.
Now I'm afraid to bring up any other thing I liked about the movie.
The toilet, sorry to go back to the toilet, but the toilet put me in tears because when I first moved to Tennessee, I was never seeing my son with the job I had. And so I started a house cleaning company. And thankfully, we were talking about Ramsey earlier, all Ramsey people employed me. And I couldn't get hired at Ramsey to do like a sales job.
Yeah.
They didn't want me, but they were paying me and they didn't even realize it because I was doing house cleaning. And so I was scrubbing these people's toilets all the time in these like big, beautiful houses. And, you know, just to put food on the toilet. And so that's...
On the toilet?
Food on the toilet.
On the table. It came from cleaning the toilet. I've been there with you. No.
And, no, I was just thinking about that scene with Eddie because so many times there was like, you know, people that were just walking around on the phone and they were like so much more important than I ever was. And this is going to make me cry, but there was this time when I just started to really pop off as a comedian. And I would talk to my priest, Father Ted, and he would say, God's keeping you scrubbing toilets because you're scrubbing toilets all day to prepare your soul to step on a stage at night and like not forget where you came from. But there was this one time I'll never forget. I was going to comedy clubs. I was running, don't tell Dave Ramsey, I was running up all my credit cards, trying to make this comedy thing work. I'd got myself so far in debt. And I went to buy cleaning supplies in my cleaning scrubs to go to one of these houses, and my credit card got declined. And then my other card got declined. And then my other card got declined. And I had to go find cash in my car and come back just to buy. It was literally like toilet bowl cleaner. And when I was leaving, this guy stops his F-150 and he's like, aren't you the recovering Californian? Can I get a picture with you? And it was just this weird like space where in so many eyes I was so famous and I had made it and I had all these followers and these viral videos, but like people didn't know like I couldn't even pay my bills when I was scrubbing toilets. Like it was, and so that scene for me, plus I happen to be friends with Jonathan Jackson. So seeing him
That played Eddie on the phone while Dad's scrubbing the toilet.
Love that hairstyle.
Oh my God.
It's pretty true to life.
Wow.
That was very
Will that ever come back?
I don't know. I'm not sure that it will. I'm not sure it will.
Hey, when our show in the 90s, we could have some people look like that.
That would be
But
amazing.
what's so odd is if you ever meet Jonathan, like knowing him from church, is he's such a meek, humble, quiet,
lovely
kind,
guy.
thoughtful person.
Yes.
So I like knew he was in the movie, and then when he showed up, I was like, Daddy, he was like, I'm here. I was like, who is this guy? Like it really speaks to his talent,
He's
which
phenomenal.
is unbelievable.
And the actress you got to play you was phenomenal.
So good.
He helped cast her, which is just so wild. But there's something even about how she holds her mouth that is like identical to me. And I remember the final scene in the movie is a festival that I played a bunch of times, Creation.
Oh, and by the way, do you still have those jackets? That's what
I
I
have a lot of
remember
those jackets,
about
yeah.
you when I got to town was the pictures with I called them the Paul Revere and the Raiders coats.
That's awesome.
Remember? Yeah.
I still have
You
some
do?
of those.
Yeah.
I sure do.
Yeah.
So we're shooting, or he's shooting, they're shooting, this final scene of the movie, and there's all the, hundreds and hundreds of extras, and they're shooting on one side of the stage this, scene of me telling my mom, you're my hero, like this is, I want to be like you, I want to be a wife and a mom, and then about to go on stage. And I'm on the other side of the stage, like watching the scene happen.
With her real mom.
With my real
right next
mom,
to her.
nearly 70, just standing behind me with our son on my hip and just going, like, how many times did this happen in real life? I mean, and she looks exactly like me at that time. Like, I think my dad passed her at one point that day and thought it was her, like just kind of had to do thought it was me. Yeah. So just that surrealness of looking at someone and going, you're my 16-year-old self. You look exactly like me. And then all flashbacks to all these real life moments of like praying with my mom before going on stage. I mean, it was just.
So you were at Creation
tears
Fest
streaming
at
down my face.
16.
I think, 94, 95, maybe 16, 17. Yeah, for the first time.
That's got to be hard to,
It was a
to
lot.
process that.
Yeah, 60,000 people or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
a lot.
remember. Yeah.
Something that was so beautiful in the book that you talked about, speaking of like just praying with your mom before you go out on stage, is you talked about anxiety and like having a psychosomatic response and losing your voice.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah,
through
in the
anxiety.
book. In the book.
Yeah, in the book, not in the movie. I gotta.
Oh, the book, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, Cub and I wrote both of our stories separately and then together. Yeah.
Yeah,
In
and
that.
the way it's blended, I mean, especially I did the audiobook and then you read and then you read, like, Rebecca
that's
reads
cool.
and then Cubbie reads, and it's like, but they're going through their life at the same stage in life at the same time, but in like two totally different, like, I mean, you were in Bakersfield. I mean, I'm sorry. That's the worst of the worst.
It's a
Yeah, you
place.
were like,
Hey, I
had
happen to do
depression.
well
I
in
was like, I know.
Bakersfield. I love Bakersfield. The Roy Rogers Theater.
There you go.
I'm sure I played there too. Yeah. He calls it the armpit of California.
Yeah, which is
Affectionately.
Bakersfield and Stockton.
Well, if you put enough deodorant, that armpit smells good.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
know.
There you go.
Well, earlier in the book, you had mentioned moving to Encinitas, which I always call them enchiladas. And
I was thinking empanada.
then you'd mentioned being in the armpit, and I was like, if he thinks Encinitas is the armpit, he's
No,
never been to Stockton
Bakersfield.
or
Bakersfield
Bakersfield.
was the armpit.
And then
not
later you were
Encinitas.
like, in Bakersfield, and I was like, that tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. That totally tracks. So you know how you kind of have these two things that can be true, where it's like, this is the really good version of this story, which is true, and then this is my egotistical, selfish, prideful self, and this is true too.
Yep.
So for me, quitting stand-up was, it's true, I wanted to spend more time with my son and be there on the weekends and at nights, which is like the good, great answer to tell people. And it's true, but also the stage fright was so bad, it took years off my life. I mean, I would cry 7 hours to a gig. I would have panic attacks.
Wow,
I lived
girl.
on Pepto, and I never did any type of like drug, but I was just pounding like CBD and THC and like anything that people would be like, this will calm you down, and just trying to mitigate, like, I sold all these tickets and I don't know why these people are here, and like
Yeah, the fear.
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you overcome the fear for people that have like a fear of, like you said, you might have this passion that you know that God has gifted you in this way? Mm-hmm. Like, because it's so easy to be like, well, I just prayed about it.
Right.
But
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you were talking earlier about recovering from trauma and being in AA and like the process that it is. And you're like, are we there yet? Are we healed yet? Please let it be true, you know. And I relate a little bit to that because I think it's something starting so young. I was 13 on my first tour in front of thousands of people. You know, signed at 15, full-time at 16. So there's something
I can't
in
imagine.
me. Well, I have an 11-year-old now. She's 2 years off of me, like, opening up for a major artist in Australia. You know, I think there was 6,000 people at that one of those shows. You know, it's just, like, I can't get my head around it now. And at that point, I felt older than I was. But now processing it in my 40s, going, that was a lot. And it did something to me, I think, in just feeling not enough a lot, and then burning out, just being on the road too much, probably saying yes to too many things, not knowing how to put boundaries in place that would actually protect my heart, you know, and then feeling the panic. And so I would be kind of having a version of a panic attack on stage while trying to sing. And so there would be certain songs where I just am struggling to breathe, and you have to be able to breathe to sing. Like, it's essential. And then eventually that panic kind of started moving over into talking. I would be having a conversation with someone and I'd just be struggling to even get enough breath to talk. And at that point I knew something's got to shift. I've got to quit music entirely or move to California. And I did both. I initially moved to California to do some acting, and then I eventually finished in music. So it was a long recovery. I will say God used this man in large part to bring healing, to where I could even sing again, think of singing again, because it was this mixed bag. It's exactly what you just said. I love how you put words around the dichotomy of it. It's like, there's a gifting here that God's given me. I feel his pleasure and delight in me. I feel a connection with him when I sing. It's also been the thing that has harmed me the most in my life.
Yeah. Yes, that's such a
It's
beautiful
also
way to say it.
somewhat of a monster, and there's a lot of fear around it because it hurt me too, and I felt used up and I felt depleted and burnout. So our relationship and the safety and the joy of the dream coming true, the main dream of my life has always been to be a wife and a mom.
Yeah.
So the fact that I have been able to live that with him, and that he has listened, and that his heart has broken for me in hearing about my pain and helping me process through it, and the counseling and all of it. Like, he's been a healing place for me. So any music that I can do now, and I'm doing a reasonable amount, is because of the safety that God created here,
Yeah.
which
that's
I'm so
beautiful.
thankful for.
Well, I get
Yeah.
that, and it's interesting because there's artists that will watch this and think, I want to be busy. I want to, and I'm finally at a point where I said enough. And I'm 69 years old. I can't imagine being 16 or 17 and 18 with all these adults around you. And the industry is pretty well defined. It's a whore-like thing. It's just about making money. And they'll spit up an artist, chew them out, put the next one on stage. They don't care. So if you don't have people in your life that love you enough to say stop, you need to take a breath. Tammy, my career was, pretty non-existent. I mean, as far as, I had a nice career, but nobody knew who I was. And then Dry Bar hit, and all of a sudden, the phone's ringing, and I'm busy. And for the first time, I'm really busy and enjoying it. I love what I do. I love what I do. It's getting there, and I realize I'm really a truck driver that does comedy at night. It is. It's getting to the gigs and doing all that, that's draining.
Yeah, it is.
And then I miss my wife. I really do. And 6 months ago, she said to me, "So you're going to die on the road." She looked at my calendar for 25, and she said, "You're going to die. It's busier than it was last year."
Wow.
So I called my manager, and I said, "We need to find a month." So it's coming up the middle of May to the middle of June, where it's the first time in my life.
Wow.
Ever.
Because I just told Tammy, you need to tell me when. I'm going to put my head down, and my managers and my agents, they got to make a living too.
Yeah.
And they're just going to book as the phone is ringing, and people are asking and they want it. My fear is that if I stop, it's never going to come back. That's my fear. And it's nonsense, but I don't know if that's the enemy or if it's the ego or the pride,
Is there a difference?
but I can't imagine as a teenager, because I had this image of them just tugging.
Well, I was told,
And God forbid you say, "I'm tired."
right.
Right.
At a certain really tired point, burnout point, probably where I was struggling with my voice, and I talk about it in the book, I was told, if you hang this up, you will not get it back when you want it. I was told that definitively by somebody that I really trusted. It has come back.
Yeah.
That was not true. So it is a lie. It is.
Well,
a lie.
I happen to know a number of people. Nate is one of them. Huge fans of yours.
Aww.
And
You're talking about Bagatsy.
yeah.
Oh, that's really cool to hear.
Yeah, he and it's funny. I told him the other day. I said he sold out like 3 arena shows in like a week. Yeah. 40,000
So
tickets in a
thrilled
week.
about
I
it.
said, "You're
It's
not
so
even a
great.
comic anymore. You're a cult." I said, "I'd be careful where you're going, young man."
You were talking about Dry Bar and just kind of this overnight success and arenas. I mean, what was it like for you to just wake up super famous? Because wasn't it Foster the People's first album that just... I mean, talk about an anthem for a generation. Like,
Top Kicks.
yeah, and especially since it's like a bass-centered anthem, and like that was you, and like all of the anthems.
Wow.
7 Nation Army. I mean,
This is how humble this guy is.
He is.
I met him over another project, and never mentioned, hey, by the way, I'm the bass player for Foster.
It's not.
I knew he was a musician. He just,
Right.
I'm a musician,
Yeah.
and sometimes I play with Rebecca.
Two-part question. One, what was it like to wake up one day that level of fame? I mean, I don't know anyone my age that couldn't say where they were in their life when that song dropped. And then second half of the question is, what is it about bass-centered, kick drum-centered songs, whether it's Pumped Up Kicks, Seven Nation Army, Come Together, what are other ones? There's so many where it's like whatever it leads with the bass and the kick drum. That is it like a tribal thing? Like we have like this.
You feel it.
Yeah,
You feel
it just like you're like want to chant or something. Like
Row.
yeah, exactly. He got a row machine, and I told him at the gym I listened to Viking.
Yeah, so I downloaded some Viking.
That's
amazing.
really
row.
smart.
Yeah.
If I get a row machine, I'll do that.
Yeah, I haven't conquered a single island, but
So it's so funny though. You just look normal. I mean, you really haven't adopted
Outside
the
of how
musician.
handsome he is,
Right.
how outstanding.
Well, I understand that, but I mean,
Yeah.
but I'm just talking about in the airport.
Right.
You could pick out every musician
Right.
on their way to a gig. Every one of them. The hair, the mascara.
Right. Oh yeah.
It's a uniform, and you don't even adopt a uniform.
No uniform. Yeah, it's funny. I grew up playing a ton of music, and most of my buddies adopted the uniform and the tattoos and all the piercings and all the stuff. And for whatever reason, I think tattoos are awesome, and I've
Yeah.
always thought about getting one, but I could never decide on something that I think that I'm
To
going to
everyone
love
that's
for the rest of my life.
they're not awesome. If you are my age or younger, don't do it. Half of mine are cover-ups. It's a mistake.
And that's probably why I didn't do it.
You got to talk about how that was though, like when the band
Totally.
first.
Well,
blew
to
up.
answer your second question, I think that's easy. Drums and bass are just awesome. So. But I think there is. I think there's something, whether it's tribal or just the way, I think there's something very unique about music. I've always thought it's unique that you can't listen to two songs at the same time. So a song will take all of your attention. You feel it, and sound waves are actually moving, and there's frequencies that are operating at different levels and triggering different things in your brain. And I think there's something physiological that happens when you're listening to music, but also emotional and spiritual and all the things. And that's why, going back to the Christian music conversation, I don't like the delineation of Christian and secular. I don't like calling Christian art. It's just
Right.
artists that happen to be Christians. And I think we're going to stand before our Creator when it comes to that point, and there's going to be a fire that burns away the things that aren't eternal that we've done in our life, and the things that are eternal will stand. And I think as artists, we have an obligation, and just as Christians, as human beings, co-creating with our Creator, we have an obligation to put our hands towards things that are eternal, and whether that song is explicitly Christian or not, if it has eternal value, it's going to stand the weight of that, or stand the destructive force of that nature or that fire. But jumping back to the Jesus thing too, Jesus, the name of Jesus is so powerful, and I think there is some sliding around that people do to kind of avoid actually saying the name of Jesus. I think it's important too. I think there was a song that we were working on a few years ago where there was an argument to take the name of Jesus out of it. And we're like, no, we absolutely have to keep it in.
because it was true. Like it was a true part of that song.
Well, that's
It
it.
just
But if
stayed.
you're sitting down with a formula,
Just
it's
stick
gonna
it in
be-
there,
yeah,
it's not
right.
authentic and it's not
it's
true.
so obvious,
Right.
You know,
Yeah. And you feel it. You
yeah.
feel
So that was the
influence.
argument between
Yeah.
the
Oh, yeah.
two, like your side, and then there was the old traditional. Oh no,
gotta
every third
slice it
line
in.
you got to
Right.
put. And it's like, again, as an outsider who doesn't write songs, Lord knows I've tried. But hey, I got a lyric for you. Tammy and I got into a little spat. I was on a movie set for 2 weeks, and I said, "What is your problem?" And she said, "Don't hate me for missing you." I go, "Holy cow, that's a country
That's a
lyric."
country song, 100%.
That's it. That's what I told her.
That
Mailbox
is.
money,
That
baby.
is.
That's really good.
Okay, you run with
No
it.
one listening, rip that off. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe cut that out so nobody
Royalties
takes
Don't
it.
Yeah.
hate me for missing you, baby.
Yeah, that's God. lot.
Yeah, that
That's
was.
good. That's a
Yeah.
lot.
Speaking of lyrics, I'm sorry to keep asking questions, so forgive me
No,
for
it's good.
fangirling.
Well, that's what we're here
That's
for.
kind of what a podcast is, though,
Yeah,
right?
a little
It's
bit.
a conversation.
It is.
Yeah.
Start questions.
But okay, I've never looked into it, but when I read the lyrics of Pumped Up Kicks, it's like a pretty deep, harsh, dark song.
Yeah.
What was it like to have like this poetic, dark song, and then people just like, I love this at a party, like. Today's podcast is brought to you by my good friend Jacob at Curtis Counting Solutions. He's done my taxes for years. He's really done a good job actually of keeping me out of jail. So if you want to stay out of jail too, go to curtisaccountingsolutions.com for your free cash flow assessment and put in Proverbs 27:23, and we won't be felons, guys. How did that?
It was strange. It was never really the song that we thought was going to be the one that
song?
sparked the fire.
That's because Satan took it.
I mean, I think there's a powerful conversation to be had around that song, but it is weird because it's bouncy and cool and summery and fun, and then you read the lyrics and you're like, okay, this is pretty dark. But I think it opened up a lot of doors for us to be able to have the deeper conversation about what was going on, and it's written from it's a fictional song written from the perspective of a young person struggling with these ideas of violence and kind of a comment of the trends of youth violence and school shootings and all that. And ironically, and not, so happily, my cousin was in the library at Columbine, one of the first biggest school shootings in our nation, and was one of 3 people that got out without being murdered or wounded miraculously. So
How old are you?
How old am I?
43.
Okay, so my youngest is 38.
42. You're 42.
38.
Yeah.
And-
Don't put a year on me.
Sorry. 43 this year.
I just had this moment where I was like, do I know how old my husband
Wow.
is?
Yeah.
But I didn't grow up with that. And my son, I told the story. It's fascinating. So you grew up with that.
Mm-hmm.
We were driving to a soccer thing or whatever, and he was probably 8, 9, I don't know. And he said, when I die, is there? Oh, he said, is there a paper in heaven? And I said, yeah, I would think if God needed you to have it, you would have it. And he'll pencil. I said, yeah. And anyway, I finally got to the point. I go, what's going on? And he said, I was just thinking if someone came in my school and shot me dead, when I got to heaven, would God give me something to write down all the things I was going to be when I got big?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
Wow.
For an 8-year-old to be
Wow.
thinking about, and I never had that. I mean, I'm sorry, but that was,
Wow. He's an empath, right? Like he feels stuff.
yeah.
A kid, a deep
Yeah.
kid. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
But,
Yeah.
so to write a song about that was like with Smitty's song, where would I? On the girl that, would you renounce your faith to save
Cassie
your life?
Banal. I wrote a song about that too, called "Yes, I Believe in God," because that's what she
Yeah.
wanted. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. It's a deep plunge.
I think for millennials, there's like 3 big things. Princess Di passing was like huge. Columbine and 9/11. It's like all of us are like, we know where we were when this happened and when this happened, because it was like we were getting formed, and then there was so much news coverage about it. Like Brent has a joke where when he was single before we got together, and he was on the dating apps after a long marriage, he was like, I don't know. I just want to find a girl to go to like a Carrabba's and talk about where we were on 9/11, you know? Like, because it's like, it really formed so many of us.
Yeah, me, it was JFK, Watergate, and then 9/11. 9/11 was, I was in Vegas. That changed me in the sense I got back and told my manager, I don't want to be in clubs anymore.
Wow.
And then I asked my Jewish manager, you think churches would hire me? He goes, hey, you're asking the wrong guy. So, the first year I did 1 church in a whole year. And when your resume's casinos and nightclubs, pastors hesitate to give you this.
Not anymore.
The pulpit, not anymore. But
For a long time, not anymore.
But those were the 3 for me. Yeah, JFK, Watergate. And now your kids, how do you deal? Do they go to private school?
We
Public?
homeschool.
Oh, you
just so they
homeschool?
can come with. They're here today.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
they're here today.
Oh.
I love
We
that.
homeschool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do the adventure together.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. I did the adventure together with my son when I first really started traveling on the road. And he was like, this life isn't for me. And I was like, oh, I get that. But he was alone. And he was like 13 when I really started to tour a lot.
Right.
And then he was like, you know, I used to have like friends and all these things. And so then I thought, shoot, I should have had like 4 more kids.
Right.
Right.
Took the horde. But I was an only child. And he's an only child. And when you were talking in the book about like how there was always somebody to play hide and go seek with,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's so special. Because I remember the neighborhood kids were my brothers and sisters, but they had their own siblings. And so when we all grew up and kind of grew apart, it was like, oh, I lost my siblings
Yes.
by just product of being an only child. Which
So how many grandkids does your mother have?
15 and a half?
Oh my gosh.
Or is it 16 and a half?
It's 15 or 16.
Yeah, there's
It's-
one on the way. So
yeah.
yeah, it's somewhere around there. It's a lot.
That's awesome.
That's a lot.
Tammy told me a few years ago, she goes, because all she ever wanted to be was a wife and a mother.
Okay.
And she said, if I'd have known you're going to turn out the way you turned out, I would have had more children with you. I go, well, give me a second to find a compliment in that before we move on. But she gets, every time she sees these big families, she just goes, you know. But she really did not pregnate well. I don't think the doctor would have wanted her to have another one. Yeah. But some people are born to birth, you know.
Like my mom.
Yeah.
Like my mom.
Yeah, but 15 grandchildren, my gosh.
It's
That's
pretty
you
wild.
get together as a family. It's
We do.
it's
Yeah,
it's
a
got to
lot.
be planned.
Yes.
wild.
Yeah. There's over 30. Yeah.
They all live here or? Oh wow.
In the area. Yeah. In
I
the
love
Nashville
that.
area.
Yeah, that is so cool. Anybody else perform outside of your brothers? I did go see their.
You saw their show?
I did see their show. Yes, thank you,
for King
Cubbie.
and Country.
Yeah, King and Country. Yes.
Yeah, they do a great show. Yeah. So there's me, singer. Then my next oldest brother, Daniel, runs the boys' light show, and he used to run my light show. So he started out real young doing that. Then Ben is a director and has done a lot with me in the early days. And then there's a documentary coming out later this year about our family, and he shot and directed, that. So he's still in that world.
So he was the one in the movie with the camera.
Yeah, with the
going
camera.
around? Yeah.
Mhm. And at
I
the
love
end,
how
it
you
shows all the
connected all
different
that.
people,
Yeah.
where they are now and what they're doing, which is so great and sweet. And that's the part I think my mom actually gets teary in. She doesn't cry in the movie, which is wild to me because I cry every time. My dad cries every time. But she cries at the end, I think, the Where Are They Now? Joel and Luke are in for King Country. Josh is running the management for my brothers. And then my sister is a vet tech. She's and an actress. Yeah. She's kind of in the world in that way too. And she sings. And so, yeah, there's a lot of creative, family for sure.
That's great. They all found their niche.
Yeah.
And
And by just doing
and
it
not
on the
one
road, too.
deadbeat. That's amazing. I mean, even the law of averages, you're going to have one guy just clinging on, going, "Hey, I need some cash."
Well, you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You just never
well, it's
know.
not over with
It's
yet.
not over yet.
Yeah, it's not over yet. But the management, so he keeps your brothers. If they burn out, it's on him.
Oh, I know. It's a lot. It's a lot
Yeah.
to carry for sure. Yeah.
So you touring?
Yeah, I mean, not touring. We did do a Christmas tour last year. A few weekends kind of thing, and the family came and the band. I do probably 2 or 3 shows a month.
On average, yeah.
Yeah. And then some speaking stuff with the book, and then a podcast with Focus on the Family, and a residency in Dallas. So I'm there every 2 months, so it keeps me busy.
Where's the
And momming.
residency in Dallas?
It's a church called First Dallas.
Oh.
It's a great church. Yeah, I'm there.
Those
every 2
Dallas
months.
churches are huge.
It's a huge. It's a mega.
Yeah.
It's a mega.
Sometimes
got
I'll see
saved.
them online, and I'm like, I don't even know you could have. It's like a stadium.
It's like a city,
Yeah,
and that's when I started working them. That was what I tried to explain to my manager. I go, each one of these are like small towns.
Yeah.
And if you can get half the town to show up, you got a nice career.
Totally.
You know.
Totally.
But it's we go to a largest church by Nashville standards. It's probably average, and we got lost at Christ Community, and actually People's. We would sit in the
Because
back.
we used to go to church together.
Yeah.
At People's.
Yeah, People's, and I think it's great early in your faith because it gives you a safe place to come and deal with. I had a lot of wrong information about Christians and church, so to have those shattered one by one by one by one, and this is the first church. We're 27 years into this walk with Jesus, and this is the first church that we feel we're part of the community.
Wow.
Yeah, Tammy
Wow.
goes to the grocery store. She sees people
Love that.
from church. She has a crochet group.
No way.
No, it's a great
For
ministry.
real?
Great
That's
ministry. They
amazing.
make blankets for the baby dedication.
That's beautiful.
Very competitive. I hear hissing from the women who don't get picked. So there's no
That's a really
names. There's no
beautiful
names on the
ministry.
blankets.
Yeah.
So the mother picks, and
That's
to think
really
of
sweet.
because you have children. How
Yeah.
long those blankets?
Right.
We have them folded up in a box,
Mm.
and we tried to give them to our grandchildren, but they wanted their own. So Tammy crocheted them all. These beautiful blankets and stuff. So
Wow.
Yeah, they don't let them go off street cred. You have to go by skill. They don't put the names on there.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's
And then
it.
They vote on them.
And it's so funny. Tammy, my wife, makes beautiful. Anyway, she entered 4 things at the Williamson County Fair,
Wow.
and she won 2 blue ribbons. And see,
Wow.
you should hear nothing from my audience, and nothing. They don't applaud. I go, apparently crochet is not big here, and whatever. But anyway, she had 2 second
ribbons.
places.
Tell
2
me
second
congrats.
places.
Oh, wow.
And it took her literally 3 minutes to get over the blue ribbon, the elation of winning, to trash one of the women who took her in the other category. Look at that hideous thing. Are you kidding? It's like, holy cow. Who ever thought crochet is just,
Competitive
They're so
world.
big.
Dog eat dog.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I still feel like we didn't hear how that was for you when the band blew up.
To just accidentally wake
Yeah.
up famous. I've got to know because I'm
I
not.
want to hear you talk about that.
I mean, it's every overnight success is years of non-success that leads to that moment that it feels like it happens overnight. And for, all things considered, it did happen for us pretty quick. But it's a wild process. I mean, I tell a story in the book about living in Hollywood. I lived just off Sunset Boulevard, walking distance to like the Walk of Fame where all the stars are printed into the sidewalk, and the Chinese Communist Theater and all that.
And Chewbacca that has who
Yeah.
knows what
All the
kind of
fun. Well,
diseases.
I used to live in an apartment where all those guys lived, like Charlie Chaplin and Iron Man and the Hulk. Like we were all neighbors in this old apartment
wild?
that was built in the 1900s, managed by a guy that used to be buddies with Andy Warhol. Like it was Andy Warhol. It was a total Hollywood trip, weird thing. But anyways, I used to walk to my gym, which was LA Fitness, right on Sunset, across the street from Jimmy Kimmel's studio.
You could be a sponsor, LA Fitness. Okay.
Yes, get your workout on. But I used to walk down the back alley where the back side of Jimmy Kimmel's studio was, where they have an outdoor stage. And so any Jimmy Kimmel's audience or artists that would play the show would play on this outdoor stage.
Really?
And so often I'd be walking to the gym and there'd be just hordes of people camped out waiting for this artist to show up, and then every once in a while they'd get a glimpse of whoever it was and they'd go nuts and scream and call out for an autograph, whatever it was. And I used to just laugh. I'm like, these people are just out there screaming somebody's name, begging for an autograph. It's just like, they're just people. It's so weird. And this happened for years, just going to the gym and seeing this happen. And then suddenly we were on the Jimmy Kimmel show, and I was on the opposite side of the fence, and suddenly there's hordes of people screaming for us and asking for my autograph. And it's like, I walked by you guys 100 times, and
Yeah.
suddenly, like, just because of this song and this band, like, it's just weird to kind of hop on the other side of that fence. And I think there's a lot of curiosity of what it's like on that side of the fence. And I think
yes.
there's an innate just desire for this fame thing that's ingrained, I think, in our sinful nature. I think fame scratches the darkest itch of our humanity, and I think it's part of one of the first temptations in the garden when Satan said, "You want to be like God?" I think there's something in us that wants to be elevated, that wants to be praised, that wants to be glorified, and we're not designed to receive that kind of glory. I think God is the only one that can receive the praises of his people, and I think when we start believing those praises, it absolutely destroys us. But I keep getting off track and not answering your question. It was wild. I mean, it was, we had been a band for several years and kind of touring the LA, just doing kind of the local thing, building a little bit of a fan base, just kind of on the West Coast. And
is this pre-social media?
I mean, kind of right in the early days. I mean, Facebook was kind of a thing. MySpace was a thing.
MySpace.
Probably pre-Instagram.
Yes.
Definitely
2009.
100% pre-Instagram. I mean, we were building an email list, if that tells you anything. We were giving away pumped up kicks for free on our website for an exchange for an email. So by the time it started getting some traction, we had, thousands of emails that we'd acquired. But it was just something that we were just playing live and doing the local thing and giving away for free. And then it ended up on, there was a website called Hype Machine. And it was all the coolest songs on the internet at the time ended up on this site, and it was a top 100 list. And anybody listening to this 100 list could, click a heart, and your song would kind of work its way up the chart, the more clicks of a heart that you got. And we heard that we were on that, and we're like, oh, that's so cool. We made it to Hype Machine. We were kind of freaking out about that. And over the next week or so, we just saw it slowly climbing up the list. And eventually it hit the top 10, and we were just freaking out and moved up even further and made it to the top 3. And we're like, guys, this is insane. What's going on?
Right.
And then a day later, it's at number 1. And reaching number 1 on Hype Machine kind of, is a big deal in the industry, because all the industry type people, A&Rs and record labels, and they're all kind of watching this because it's a real, it's a live.
Well, it's what the people are listening to.
Yeah,
Totally.
what they love.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real-time sort of.
Unlike a radio station who just says, our demo is 28 to 31 or
Right,
whatever.
right.
Yeah.
So the first time you heard it on the radio, like LA, like Kiss FM, or
I think I heard it in I was actually on Hollywood Boulevard, and somebody drove by with their windows down, and I heard it playing.
Which is the perfect song for that.
Yeah.
With their windows down,
Yeah.
and you're just listening to Pumped Up.
Which was wild.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so did you have a similar experience the first time you heard your song on the radio? What was that like?
Yeah.
It's so adorable that you guys can like share these like obscure.
Yeah, no, I remember being in the car, probably just driving around, Nashville, and hearing it on the radio. Yeah, it was super
What
trippy.
was the first song?
It's called Here I Am.
Yeah, it's the one in the movie, right? Or am I crazy?
No, that song actually was written right around the time that we met, so 15 years ago. You Make Everything Beautiful.
A
Yeah.
little
movie.
creative license taken on that one.
Yeah.
too,
So it
It's a
wasn't from the
beautiful
early
song.
days.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it was really written in faith that God was making my life beautiful, that he was bringing me out of burnout into a new season of my dreams coming true. So it was like, Lord, I believe that you're going to make things beautiful in my life. And he did. It's just really sweet. And really sweet to have journeyed that with him, because I heard Pumped Up Kicks. I was like, this is a hit. This is a big song. Like, they're going to be huge. And then to travel the world with him early in marriage. And
Yeah, we met kind of right in that Hype Machine phase when things were just starting to
doing showcases.
We actually met a week before we went to.
Now, did you know who she
South by
was before?
Southwest. Yeah.
You
I
met-
did. I was aware of her name, which is interesting. That I absolutely should have been more familiar with her music, but I
Were you a
wasn't.
contemporary? Because I find a lot of musicians don't necessarily listen to contemporary Christian.
I did. I listened to a lot of Christian music growing up. There was definitely a turning point in my kind of high school years where I got very
Were you a
excited
Striper
about.
guy?
I never got into Striper.
Yeah.
Petra was actually my first
Oh,
concert.
okay.
Michael
Because-
W.
Michael
Yeah.
W.
Because of your movie, now Brent, when he comes out, he's playing. When he comes out and he's not working with Jeff, but when they have music, he's playing Striper to Hell with the
That's
Devil.
amazing.
Yeah,
That's
he's
awesome.
like,
What?
I forgot about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is so funny to me. But you guys both kind of live in nickname world, like St. James, Cubbie.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then wasn't worship music like a big piece of your testimony? Like it's kind of, I don't know if you want to share, but I'm sorry if you want to tell Jeff about.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's out there for the world. So.
Yeah, I know it's true, but I don't want to give away too much of the spoilers.
That's okay. Whatever you guys
Well, I
are
can
interested
say enough to keep some suspense. But yeah, there's kind of an interesting parallel that we discovered in the writing process, which was one of many. I mean, it's rare that you're forced to reflect on your life to the degree that you have to write a book, which I know you've gone through. But being able to look back and just see the things that you missed along the way and see God's hand, I mean, your vision of being able to look back on your life and God show you, now I was here with you in all these places. I feel like we had a similar experience of just seeing God so ingrained in the details of our lives. And I've been encouraging people to do that kind of reflection, just to see God and his love and his orchestration of the way that he's, so lovingly leading us through this wild life. But
well, Socrates said an unexamined life is not worth living.
Yeah.
And I think at some point,
you realize
for your mental health, you need to take a good, long, hard look. And somebody once said, get downwind from yourself.
That's good.
Yeah. Look at your priorities and get a whiff of what God sees.
That's really good.
What kind of husband are you? Father are you?
Yeah.
If those are important to you.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's really good. But one of these parallels that we discovered was, I mean, you talked about Rebecca losing her voice, and I went through sort of a similar, very different but similar kind of losing of my voice. I grew up very vocal and very just free and able to sing, and I've got memories of me riding my bike around the neighborhood at 5 years old and just singing on the top of my lungs. And it's funny, my favorite song at the time was Springsteen's "Born in the USA," but I thought it was "Bomb in the USA."
Which you can hear that.
Yeah, sing that at the airport.
Yeah, but that was my song on the top of my lungs, riding my bike around the neighborhood. But there was a moment where the freedom to sing disappeared, and I struggled for years with the ability to open my mouth in song, and it all kind of stemmed from some missing memories of some traumatic events that basically happened to me at about 5-6 years old that were so repressed that I weren't even aware they were there. Wow. There was just a turning point in kind of my emotional state that all stemmed from this missing section of my life from a memory perspective, that it wasn't until years later, several years into marriage, that...
So you were completely devoid
out
of any conscience of it.
And to the point where it was always very strange to me because I have an unbelievably vivid memory. I mean, I remember things laying in the crib and seeing my mobile been above me, and all of my years are just cataloged in vivid detail except for this one missing section, and I never really understood why, and there was always questions around it. And something I do remember is watching my neighbor across the street get arrested and taken away in a cop car, and I remember my parents sat me down and said, "Hey, did anything happen with that guy, anything weird?" And at the time I just said no, and I don't know if I said no because I didn't remember at that point or if I was just trying to avoid more questioning, but I said no, and they moved on. We all kind of moved on with our life. So there was, the missing memories, seeing my neighbor arrested, that was always a question mark in my mind, but never really dove too deep into it until we ended up going through a pretty hard season in life, just with transition out of the band, which was pretty traumatic. She was struggling to get pregnant. My mom was dying. There was just a lot of hard stuff going on in our life, and that trauma started working its way to the surface, and got to the point where it was just pretty crushing, pretty soul crushing, pretty debilitating, and got to the point where I realized I couldn't handle it on my own anymore, and sought counsel and sought help to kind of uncover what was there, and started a few year journey of just kind of diving deep and pushing into some pretty dark and scary places in my mind and heart, and ultimately ended up uncovering some of those, unlocking some of those memories, but beautifully saw Jesus in the midst of them, and was able to see him with me even in kind of that darkest moment, and just received an unbelievable amount of healing and freedom from that trauma. And it's interesting. I mean, you asked if it's okay to talk about it. It was a lot of deliberation on whether or not I was going to share it in the book, because prior to writing the book, there was probably only 3 people in my life that knew the reality of that trauma and those experiences. And suddenly I'm toying with the idea of putting it on display for, the world or whoever wants to read it. And what I realized is there is purpose in the pain if it helps someone
That's it.
face their own stuff.
Yeah, I learned early on, you're sick as your secrets.
Yeah.
And it was interesting when I first got to therapy, and I talked about a neighbor kid, his older brother, molested me. And she said to me, every time you talk about something like that, you laugh and make a joke. And I made a joke about it. If you had asked me if it happened, I remembered it. I didn't bury it. I just blew it off as, consensual. And she said, your son's 8 years old, right? I go, yeah. She goes, okay, if a 16-year-old boy did to him, I said I'd rip his thyroid out. And she goes, then why aren't you angry? And then you get to the anger, and then you get to the sadness.
Yeah.
Of what you lost as an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
And you're right, it does help people. Because when you can share that stuff openly, it gives people permission.
Permission, that's a word.
Oh, they can do that.
Yeah.
Then I can do that.
Yeah.
So it is, and it's not easy.
No.
And I think today we're lucky we live in a time where the stigma that comes along with childhood wounds is nowhere near what it was when my father was being raised. My father carried, I know he carried deep, deep wounds.
Yeah.
And it's sad that he didn't get a chance to do the work to open that up, because I don't know what kind of man he would have been had he done that.
Yeah. Yeah. But you did the work.
Yeah, I had to. Otherwise, I would have lost everything. I mean, and that was my question was, why am I like this? Again, it wasn't until I read the scripture where Paul said, I do the things I don't want to do, but yet I can't seem to do, that it all made sense to me. To me, I look at it this way. I have old nature, new nature, and they're constantly, and I keep trying to push Jesus over here to get the old one out,
Yeah.
But, so 15 years of marriage?
Yeah, 14.
14 as of
14.
last month.
Well,
15 knowing each other.
Yeah.
Well, when this comes out, it'll be 15. And so you're directing. I know that because we're working on something together.
Yeah.
And you're doing
Some music, some
1 to
speaking.
2 shows a month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Keeps us out of mischief.
Yeah.
Keeps us busy.
And who's managing you if it's not your brother?
We have a wonderful manager named Carter. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
yeah.
So people can get that if they just go to Rebecca St. James thing. And I was thinking, and your maiden name is Smallbone, right? And yours is Fink. So I don't know why you just don't go Rebecca Smallbone Fink. I mean,
It's a win-win.
Gosh. Yeah. I mean,
think
talking about trying to spell names, and I mean, we were talking about your name earlier. Smallbone. People with the accent too, they were like, Smallbone? What are you even saying? Like, my whole life.
I love the
Fink is way easier.
Scene at the airport where your dad gave all of the colloquialisms from Australia.
Oh,
Got the
totally.
knickers in them,
Yeah.
What did he just say? Yeah. I love language. Yeah, when I was in London, they had again all these colloquial. When my son started living here, they're calling us yes sir and yes ma'am. We didn't ask for that. That just came from being in school. And
Yep.
I thought, well, I like that. So then I get to New York. At the kiosk, have you been to Broadway? The kiosk where you get the
we
same
were just
day
there
ticket.
recently.
Oh, yeah.
Promoting the book. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I said yes, ma'am, and this woman just lost it. Ma'am, you see a large, fat human being in front of you, ma'am. I mean, and I'm thinking, I forgot. I'm in New York. I'm not in Tennessee.
Wow.
So let's
You're
keep.
like, it was meant to be.
I said, I'm so sorry.
respectful.
I'm so sorry. I was just trying to be kind, you witch. Goodness. No, I didn't say that.
I'm sure you did it. I'm sure you did it.
But I thought it. It was
Right,
like, okay, let's keep it
right.
hostile.
Yeah.
But there are all these different colloquialisms.
Totally.
But so you're from the States.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know why I thought in my
No
head
Aussie accent there.
Yeah, but I did think somewhere in there that you were from over there and just living in California when you guys met.
Well, he was South Africa. He spent some time there too, so we had that. South Africa and Australia are kind of similar in some ways, like Commonwealth and all of that. So.
I felt like in the book that really showed that you're like a people pleaser because you just got wrapped into it. It was like he just showed up one day and they were like, "You're going to Africa." He was
Such a
like,
trip.
"Wait a minute."
Yeah.
I said I was like kind of interested in the surfing in Africa. Like, what are we talking about here? And they were like, "Yeah, pack your bags. We've heard all about you."
We've even paid your ticket.
So I love that you talked about the Enneagram. You were like, "I'm an Enneagram too," and so I was like,
What's an Enneagram?
"You don't know what the
wow. Hey, what do
Oh.
you think he is?
An 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very possibly.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a personality type.
It's
There's
witchcraft.
9 different. No. Cubbie.
It's totally
So
just
Is-
a
is-
waste.
Is an 8 psychotic?
They
No,
they
just-
speak their mind. They're strong. They like to challenge people. They feel comfortable challenging people, but they can be very like gentle,
Confident.
respectful challenges as
Oh, I
well.
like that.
Yeah.
But if I had to guess, I'd say an 8 wing 7. So I'm pretty sure the 8 is a challenger.
You like to have a good time? That's a 7.
You know what? I was thinking the other day, I don't know how to have a good time.
Oh.
It's so interesting.
7.
I was on the golf course by myself, walking, carrying my bag, and I stopped and I looked up at the sky and I said, "Why can't I enjoy this? What is wrong? What has happened to me that I can't?" My manager is so good for me. He said,
a kind
I
man.
bought something recently, an expensive thing, and I said, "I think I'm returning it." And he goes, "Why?" And I go, "I don't think." He goes, "You've earned this. When you get those bags packed, you get on that airplane and you head out. You're doing things that a lot of people wouldn't do. So you earned it, And
So did you return it or did
No,
you
I
keep
did
it?
not. I kept it.
Ah, good for you.
But
See?
it's like
Enjoyment.
I used to think I had a good time when I drank.
That's what I was thinking. The
Right.
7, the enthusiast.
Right.
Like, we're gonna burn this place down, and once I start going, there's not enough coke to sink this ship. Like,
I used to do that a lot. I was the guy who would be up at your concerts with my ear up against the speaker, going, and then
you?
the rest of the evening going, "What?
Yeah.
What?"
I'm a 4 wing 3.
Okay.
Are you a 5 wing 4?
1 wing 9.
1 9. Okay, I thought you seemed very like.
Is
from
this in the
few times
book?
We've met. It's a little. You mentioned
talk a little
I
bit
talk
about
about it.
it,
I don't
yeah.
know that he does.
Oh, that's
But
interesting.
It's very. You should do it.
I
You
feel
and
awful.
Tammy-
I downloaded
No.
the book last night like I was going to read the whole
totally
thing.
Fine.
And
You
I,
got it now, but no pressure.
and I took my gummy and my sleepy pills and
Your melatonin. Yeah.
I read your part.
And you became ASMR. No, I think it's totally witchcraft. I used to. I still love and adore Sandals Church, but I used to watch all of their stuff, and their pastor wrote a book about the Enneagram, and it's old Jesuit, like just basically a bunch of priests kind of did like personality types, and all of the confessions and all the stuff they get,
Oh,
they
wow.
compiled, as far as I know, I could be totally wrong, but they compiled all this information. And then it's really funny because when you look into it, like first time it got out, this one Jesuit priest is like, "I released it," and you're like, "Ooh, the priests were going to come for you." Well, I guess if you look into Jesuit history, that might be.
Well, I kind of like. I saw in a James Bond movie where they would in Italy. I guess it was Italy. They would light their prayers and then throw them out.
I do like that.
And then float.
Yeah.
And
That's nice.
just the image of I'm
Setting
releasing
it free.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially confession. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then nobody can find out about it. Burn the evidence. But it is really cool. Like, in terms of, I was a very unhealthy 4 when I discovered the Enneagram, and it gave me a lot of tools that were deep buried in sermons on how to point my issues and my problems and my struggles to Christ and kind of understand who I am.
Yeah.
So, like everything, it had like a little bit of good and a little bit of evil, but I think some people, like, they're like, oh, well, I'm sorry that I, like, cheated on you and that we whatever, but I'm like a 7, so it's like no big deal. And you're like, okay, lady.
Well, it was like astrology. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tammy and I are 2 Geminis, and we had a lady tell us when we were engaged that you'll never last.
Oh, no.
And I know if I went back to her now, she goes, your life isn't over. Yeah, cover their own self. Yeah, I'm not one of the, probably one of the people in my generation that really never bought into.
Well, growing up in
astrology.
California, I am prime. Like, I would have been so good as a cult person. Like, I was a vegetarian. Like, if the crystal people or the trans movement was happening when I was 15, I'm telling you, I would have no boobs and I would have, like, sage. I'd just be so ready. I'd be like, that's who I am. I know me.
No.
Yeah, just like, I think some people, like empaths, are just so, they need something to worship and they need to know
And
who
something
they
to
are.
identify with. Too.
We are
Like, when you
wired.
think about
Do you believe
identity.
this?
Yeah.
We are wired to worship,
Yeah.
and we're wired to serve. So
Yeah.
the question you ask is, what am I worshiping? Because
am I
that's what
serving?
you'll serve.
Yeah.
And I believe that 100%.
Yeah.
And I share that with my audiences all the time. Whether you believe in God or not, we are wired to worship. We're wired to
good.
serve. So
Yeah.
you'll figure something out.
Yeah.
Because it's who we were created to be.
Yeah.
We're created for worship.
Yes.
And you see that. And I everything that I see culturally, and again, I'm an old man, I'm an outsider, seems to be very religious in its nature. You know, and the fervor in which people cling to their beliefs and the willingness to destroy another human being leads me to believe it's not connected to God, because God wouldn't allow you. Even though religion has been responsible for a lot of atrocities, I don't believe they were connected to Christ at the time. I think it was, when it's about political power and control, then it has nothing to do with our Savior. That's for sure. I love the image of Jesus laughing.
I know.
Just love that.
That painting.
That whole thing of Peter going, I'm with you. You know, you just hear him go, right.
Yeah.
Just to mention, you're going to deny me 3 times. They go, oh.
Right.
I would never.
But the ability to see into the human heart has to be a curse. It really does. I don't want to know. I like to believe your lies about me. You know?
I know that it's not true for me because he says before the rooster crows, and I'm like, I'm never up that early. I'm totally sick. I'm good. Well, I think we should wrap this up. Are you guys? You feel? Is there anything you want to plug? You'll have all, for the people listening, all of your little connections, all the ways to find you guys.
We're not here to plug. We're here to be with you guys and have a conversation. So yeah,
Well, thank you.
We like that.
We really enjoyed it. You
We
guys
like
are wonderful.
I
already knew you were wonderful, and I had heard you were wonderful. And
Oh, you
now
heard?
know that you're
Oh
both
my
wonderful.
God. I wish.
Wow,
Brett
you
was
can
here.
stay long? Wow. Let's keep this going. I think we should do
Yeah,
it.
you're complimenting me.
Another
Please, I'm
20.
for it. Tell
Another
me,
20.
tell me how unique I am. Go on.
Yes.
So good. I've enjoyed it very much.
So we will be working together. I know that.
Absolutely.
You and I.
I know
Yeah.
too.
I can't wait for that to drop.
Yeah.
I know.
It's hard to keep it in.
I know.
It is.
Same.
I am,
We all feel like that.
Plus, it'll keep me home and an answer to a prayer. I was telling Tammy the other day that I just, and you're his wife, so you can maybe agree to this or not, but I just don't see him in the middle of a burning building being the one where somebody has to go,
Yeah.
snap out out of it.
Right.
I just see him so calm and cool,
Yeah.
just going, okay, here's
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 what
the
we
way
do.
we got to get out. This is the way in. And I'm the guy. My God, the house is burning. Jeff, wake up.
That makes me feel a lot of shame because I'm like the one that lit the fire. He's trying to cook tortillas.
Let's say that's a joke. She's not an arsonist. So there's a burnt building in your neighborhood. Believe me, she has an alibi. Trust me. So that's it. You guys, Rebecca and Cubbie, thank you so much for this.
God bless you guys
I know
so
you
much.
have a lot of other things to do, especially with those 3 beautiful children that you have to stop in here and talk to us. So
It was a blast.
Thanks for
Thank you
having
so
us.
much.
Thanks for having
I've
us.
enjoyed it.
God bless you guys.
You too.
Too.
Today's podcast is brought to you by my good friends at Innovative Dental. Don't look too close to my teeth because I kind of just had lunch. But if you look at my old videos and my new videos, my teeth are totally straight now. And you're like, Carollynn, you live in Nashville, Tennessee. Why'd you go all the way to Springfield, Missouri? Because there is one great, amazing dentist, Dr. Olson. I mean, I only needed braces, but they do full cosmetic dentistry. And when you go there, you get your own room, like your own private room to get a bunch of dental work. I almost wish my teeth were more messed up just to hang out in the fancy I need a lot of dental work room. So go to idspringfield.com for the greatest dental work you'll ever get.